Welcome to the closeout report for the Catalyst project Rethink CIP-30. Our goal with this project was to improve on the limitations of CIP-30 and to extend the current capabilities of wallets. At the beginning of this project, we had several meetings of the wallet working group to discuss the issues around CIP-30. Out of those meetings, we came up with CIP-10, which collects all the known issues with CIP-30 and introduces this concept of different wallet roles. We can have a quick look at these wallet roles that were introduced in CPS10. In particular, we want to look at two of them, the own data and the full data wallets. An own data wallet is essentially what you have today with CIP-30, where the wallet can return information to the DApp about users' data and the wallet's own state. As opposed to this, we have CPS10 introduces this concept of the full data wallet, where full data wallets basically are own wallets, which also gain a wide variety of queries over global blockchain data. Many DApps actually need this information and currently rely on third parties to fetch this information. But this introduces the issue of having to keep track of this global blockchain state and the local state of the wallet. Other important contributions of CPS10, as I mentioned, collecting issues with CIP-30, and some of these that came out are the use of CBOR encoding instead of JSON throughout the whole API, which is inconvenient because it often requires, JSON is much more accepted standard. CBOR often requires an extra library to do the conversion to and from CBOR. Then the fact that the CIP-30 kind of conflates the connection standard and the API, which then must be used in every connection. In terms of CIP-30 sections, these are called the connection API and the full API essentially, but they are quite different, and we thought it would be a good improvement to try and split these things apart. Then there is lack of proper support for versioning. There is some attempt to support versioning, but it is not really well enforced. It's not reflected in the API anyhow. It's not enforced on the extension level. And then there is the last point, or there's a couple more actually, but last, I guess, big one I wanted to mention is that the API itself is specified in terms of a TypeScript object, making it unnecessarily tied to a specific language and a specific transport mode. So we also wanted to come up with a generic way in which we could specify an API, and then this could have essentially translation across different languages and also different transports, because you can imagine you have WebSocket API, HTTP API, you can have the API on a TypeScript object essentially, which is the one that CIP-30 defined. So our contributions were essentially to come up with a set of CIPs to try and address this problem. And to do this, we had to build essentially upon our work. So initially, we wanted to solve this problem of the CBOR encoding. For this, we introduced CPS11, which introduces this problem and explains a bit more what the shortcomings are of using CBOR rather than JSON directly in the wallet API, essentially, and a bunch of other places. So we came up with CIP-116, which has now been merged, and essentially this CIP derives or defines JSON schemas for all the CDDL types, essentially for the ledger types, and it also does this across different eras, and it has some mechanism to support essentially types across different eras. And yes, and so we've introduced this CIP. This CIP has actually got merged, and we use this now as a base in the other CIPs we've worked on. Following that, we have CIP-0144, which is the wallet connector API. This, as I mentioned in CIP-30, there was this issue of having both the the full API and the connection API in conflated into this. That's all CIP-30. We wanted to split them, so we wanted to introduce this generic connector API, which only defines essentially, which introduces the versioning scheme for the connection API and its extension. It introduces and defines the API in this transport agnostic format, and defines also a mechanism for extensions to register and provide more finer grain capabilities in line with the wallet roles that we've talked about before. So after that, we've proposed, this CIP does not have a number yet, but so we will refer to it as CIP-XXXX. But essentially, it is a CIP which proposes a wallet extension, which is enables a known data wallet. This essentially is the same capabilities we get today with CIP-30. This API we propose is fully CIP-30 compatible. By just, if you have essentially a CIP-30 wallet with a small wrapper, you can essentially implement this API. And the only differences, or the few differences, essentially, that, for example, it will use these new JSON types instead of the CBER types, and have fixes to some of the interests I mentioned, and some other smaller things I didn't mention. And finally, we have another proposal for an extension. So both the CIP-XXXX and this new CIP that I'm going to talk about now, CIP-139, these are extensions to the wallet connector API, in the sense that they can be registered through the wallet connector API, and you can essentially ask the wallet, hey, enable this extension, enable that extension, based on what kind of wallet you need. So finally, we have the last extension, which enables this full data wallet we've talked about. So it's CIP-139, universal query layer or full data wallet, essentially. We've also have a CPS, which is CPS-12, which introduces the context for acquiring this. Essentially, it builds up on what we introduced in CPS-10 with the full data wallet. And so this extensions defined this is an extension for a new wallet connector API that enables a full data wallet, enabling us to query global blockchain data, right? So the wallet does not have only access to its information about itself, but it can also query stuff like which UTXOs are at this address and other global information on the blockchain. And obviously, this API also uses the JSON encoding of types and the transport agnostic specification. Thank you for your time. Please check out the CIPs and leave feedback on them. I will leave links to them in the description of the video.